The sound of a crutch clattering across the linoleum floor echoed through the suddenly silent hallway. Jasmine Hopkins braced herself against the wall, her right leg trembling as she struggled to maintain balance. 5 faces stared down at her, their expressions a mix of cruel amusement and detached curiosity. The leader of the group, Camille Blackstone, dangled Jasmine's sketchbook just out of reach, flipping through the pages with exaggerated interest. "What's wrong, cripple girl? Can't reach it?" Camille taunted, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Maybe if you weren't so busy drawing your little pictures, you'd learn how to walk properly." Jasmine's eyes burned with unshed tears as she watched the pages of her portfolio. Months of work, pieces of her soul translated into color and line, being slowly torn out and crumpled. The sound of ripping paper seemed to tear through her very chest. She lunged forward, desperation overriding caution, and felt her balance give way entirely. As she fell, the flash of phone cameras captured her humiliation. The laughter that followed would haunt her dreams for months to come. Before we go any further, we'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop a comment below with your city or country. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button to join our community of storytellers dedicated to Black voices and experiences. Now back to our story. What happened next would change everything, for Jasmine, for her tormentors, and for a school community that had looked away for far too long. Jasmine Hopkins had always seen the world differently. Where others saw obstacles, she imagined possibilities. Where some perceived limitations, she discovered new paths. This perspective wasn't just philosophical, it was born of necessity. From the moment she entered the world 15 years ago, Jasmine's journey had been marked by struggle and adaptation. Born with cerebral palsy that primarily affected her right side, she navigated life with the help of forearm crutches and an artist's eye for finding beauty in unexpected places. Her physical therapist often remarked that Jasmine possessed unusual determination, a quality that hadn't emerged from nowhere. "Baby girl got that Hopkins fire," her grandmother Valencia would say, her voice a rich blend of pride and gentle guidance. "Same fire that carried our family from Mississippi dirt roads to Philadelphia sidewalks. Same fire that kept me standing when your mama passed." Valencia Hopkins had raised Jasmine since she was 3, after her mother, Valencia's only daughter, died in a car accident that Jasmine miraculously survived. Their home in Pinewood Heights, a historically Black neighborhood in North Philadelphia fighting gentrification, wasn't grand but felt sacred in its own way. Every surface held photographs chronicling their family history. Walls displayed both Jasmine's artwork and vintage posters from the civil rights era, and the kitchen perpetually smelled of sweet potato pie or collard greens, depending on the day. "Beauty isn't just what you see in museums," Valencia often told Jasmine as she helped her granddaughter stretch her stiff muscles each morning. "Beauty is survival. Beauty is speaking truth. Beauty is finding joy when the world gives you reason for sorrow." These philosophy sessions happened while Valencia, a retired nurse's aide who now worked part-time at the neighborhood recreation center, massaged Jasmine's perpetually tight right calf and helped her prepare for the day ahead. By the time Jasmine entered Pinewood Heights High School, her artistic talent had become her defining characteristic rather than her disability, at least in her grandmother's eyes and her own self-perception. Her bedroom walls showcased her evolution from simple drawings to complex multimedia pieces that explored identity, belonging, and her dual experiences as both Black and disabled in America. At school, though, the reality was more complicated. Freshman year had been bearable. She'd even found a handful of friendly acquaintances who admired her talent. But sophomore year brought a new dynamic when Camille Blackstone and her friends transferred from a recently closed private academy across town. Camille, the daughter of a prominent real estate developer whose company had been buying up properties throughout Pinewood Heights, quickly established herself at the top of the social hierarchy. She wore designer clothes, carried the latest iPhone, and possessed the particular brand of confident cruelty that teenagers both fear and admire. From her first week, she seemed fixated on Jasmine, initially with performative, condescending interest. "Oh my God, I love how you can still make art even with your you know, that gradually evolved into targeted mockery. Art had always been Jasmine's refuge. Miss Kingsley, the art teacher, a statuesque black woman with locks wrapped in colorful fabric who'd been teaching at Pinewood for 20 years, had given Jasmine a key to the art room, allowing her access during lunch and free periods. In that space, surrounded by the smell of paint and clay, Jasmine created worlds where her body moved without restriction and where her blackness was celebrated rather than scrutinized. Her latest project had been her most ambitious yet, a series exploring invisible histories of her neighborhood, blending archival photographs with portraits of current residents and abstract elements representing gentrification's impact. She'd spent months interviewing elders, taking photographs, and developing a technique that incorporated multiple layers of translucent paper to create depth and shadow. Miss Kingsley had suggested she submit it to a citywide young artist competition with scholarship prizes. "This isn't just good high school art, Jasmine," Miss Kingsley had told her, dark eyes serious behind vintage cat-eye glasses. "This is speaking truth to power. This is what art is supposed to do, make people see what they've been missing." The morning of the hallway incident had begun like any other. Valencia braiding Jasmine's hair while quizzing her on historical facts, their morning ritual. Jasmine carefully packing her portfolio in her specially designed backpack that distributed weight evenly to accommodate her balance. A text from Miss Kingsley. "Don't forget, competition deadline Friday." The spring sun had felt warm on her face as she made her way to the school bus stop, sketching quick impressions of neighbors in her mind. Mr. Percy watering his legendary rose garden, Ms. Lucille opening her hair salon, the Ramirez twins racing to catch their bus to the Catholic school downtown. Just ordinary moments she hoped to capture later, transforming them into something profound through her distinctive artistic lens. She hadn't noticed Camille watching her from her mother's white BMW, hadn't seen the calculated smirk or the whispered conversation with friends. She hadn't known that this ordinary Tuesday would become a dividing line in her life, the day everything fell apart, and paradoxically, the day that would eventually reveal her greatest strength. The attack happened between third and fourth periods, when the hallways were most congested and teacher supervision was at its thinnest. Jasmine had been at her locker, carefully sliding her portfolio out to take to art class, when she felt someone bump against her crutch. Not an uncommon occurrence in crowded hallways, but this bump felt deliberate, forceful enough to momentarily unbalance her. "Oops, sorry," came Camille's voice, the insincerity palpable. "Didn't see you there." Jasmine steadied herself, clutching her portfolio closer. "It's fine," she replied quietly, hoping to defuse the situation quickly. She closed her locker and turned to leave, but found herself suddenly surrounded. Camille stood directly in her path, flanked by 4 others, 2 girls and 2 boys whose names Jasmine knew, but who had never spoken directly to her before. Something about their stance, the formation they created, sent a chill through her. This wasn't random. This was coordinated. "What's that?" Camille asked, pointing to the portfolio with exaggerated interest. "Is that your special art? The stuff Miss Kingsley's always making such a big deal about?" Before Jasmine could respond, Camille reached for the portfolio. Jasmine instinctively pulled back, but her mobility limitations made quick movement difficult. The portfolio was snatched from her grasp with embarrassing ease. "Let's see what genius looks like," Camille said, unzipping the case while her friends formed a tighter circle, blocking the view from passing students and teachers. A few students slowed to watch, curious but unwilling to intervene. "Please give it back," Jasmine said, her voice stronger than she felt. "Those are important. I need to turn them in this week." "Important? Really?" Camille began removing the carefully protected pieces. Her manicured nails flipped carelessly through months of work. "Looks like weird trash to me. I don't get it." "It's about gentrification," Jasmine explained, a desperate attempt to appeal to some humanity in the group. "About what's happening to our neighborhood." This seemed to touch a nerve with Camille, whose father's company was at the center of community protests about new luxury developments. "You mean making it better?" Camille's voice hardened. "Getting rid of all the rundown buildings." "Those aren't just buildings," Jasmine said, a spark of her grandmother's fire flaring despite her fear. "They're people's homes. Their history." Something shifted in Camille's expression, a flash of genuine anger replacing the performative disdain. Without warning, she took one of Jasmine's pieces, a mixed-media portrait of Valencia superimposed over historical photographs of their street, and slowly, deliberately tore it down the middle. The sound seemed to stop time. Jasmine lunged forward instinctively, but Camille's friend stuck out a foot, and in the same moment, another kicked away her left crutch. Her balance gone, Jasmine fell hard against the lockers before sliding to the floor. The laughter started immediately, joined by the distinctive sound of phone cameras clicking and videos recording. Through a haze of pain and humiliation, Jasmine watched as Camille and the others tore page after page from her portfolio, letting the fragments flutter down around her like toxic snow. "Maybe now you can make some art about learning to walk," Camille sneered before dropping the empty portfolio case on Jasmine's lap and walking away, her friends trailing behind her. The bell rang. Students hurried to class, and Jasmine sat alone among the ruins of her work, a single tear finally escaping to trace a path down her cheek. What she didn't see was Terrence Wallace standing at the far end of the hallway, having witnessed everything. Didn't see him pick up a torn fragment of her art that had drifted his way. Didn't notice how he carefully folded it and placed it in his pocket before disappearing into the crowd. Within an hour, the video of her humiliation would be circulating on Instagram and Snapchat. Within a day, her life would feel irrevocably altered. But in that moment, surrounded by the scattered pieces of her art and her dignity, Jasmine couldn't imagine how she would ever create anything again. She certainly couldn't foresee how this devastating moment would eventually inspire her most powerful work yet. Art that would bring her tormentors to tears and change the culture of an entire school community. The aftermath of the hallway attack unfolded in a blur of muted voices and fluorescent lights. A teacher finally noticed Jasmine still sitting on the floor, surrounded by the tattered remains of her artwork. The school nurse documented her injuries. A sprained wrist from the fall, bruising along her right side, but nothing as visible or quantifiable as the wound to her spirit. Principal Hampton, a balding man perpetually dressed in beige, called Valencia while Jasmine sat silent in his office, her grandmother's fire temporarily extinguished by shock and humiliation. "We take bullying very seriously at Pinewood Heights," Principal Hampton assured Valencia over speakerphone, his words hollow against the reality of what had just occurred. "The students involved will face appropriate consequences." Appropriate consequences. The phrase would echo in Jasmine's mind in the days that followed. Camille and her friends received 3 days of in-school suspension. They were required to write apology letters that read like mandatory homework assignments, devoid of genuine remorse. The viral videos remained online despite the school's requests for removal. Comments ranged from horrified sympathy to further mockery. Valencia had wanted to press charges, destruction of property, assault, harassment, but Jasmine couldn't bear the thought of more attention, more exposure. "I just want it to be over," she whispered as Valencia gently applied arnica gel to her bruises that night. "I don't want to be the disabled black girl who couldn't defend herself. I don't want to be a hashtag or a news story." Her grandmother's hands paused momentarily, then resumed their careful ministrations. "Being a victim doesn't make you weak, baby," Valencia said softly. "But I understand. This is your journey, and you get to choose how to walk it, or roll it, or crutch it." The attempted humor earned a ghost of a smile from Jasmine, the first since the incident. The following week, Jasmine returned to school physically but remained absent in every other way. She moved through hallways like a shadow, taking alternate routes to avoid certain areas, certain people. Her once vibrant contributions in classes dwindled to silence. The art room, previously her sanctuary, remained untouched. Miss Kingsley watched with concern as Jasmine made excuses to skip class or sat with empty sketchbooks when attendance was unavoidable. "The competition deadline has been extended," Miss Kingsley mentioned one day, placing a new application form on Jasmine's desk. "You could start something new." Jasmine stared at the paper without reaching for it. What's the point? They'll just destroy it again. They can only destroy what they can reach, Miss Kingsley replied, tapping her own temple significantly. The source, that fire in you, that's untouchable unless you let it be. But the fire felt extinguished. At night, Jasmine dreamed of falling, of laughter echoing in endless hallways, of hands tearing not just her art, but her body into pieces. She'd wake gasping, her right leg seized in painful spasms that Valencia would patiently help her work through, neither mentioning the tears that accompanied the process. It was during one of these midnight pain sessions, almost 3 weeks after the incident, that Jasmine finally spoke about the deeper wounds. It's not just about the art they destroyed, she said as Valencia massaged her calf. It's that they were right. Valencia's hand stopped. Right about what? That I don't belong. That I'm just pretending I can be normal. Jasmine stared at the ceiling, avoiding her grandmother's eyes. Maybe art was just a way of hiding from reality. Valencia resumed the massage, her touch firmer now. Let me tell you something about reality, child. Reality isn't just what is. It's also what could be. That's what your art does, shows what could be. Used to do. Jasmine corrected. Tell me something, Valencia said, shifting to sit beside Jasmine on the bed. You remember the story of your great-grandmother Beatrice? Jasmine nodded. She'd heard the story countless times, seen the faded photographs of a stern-faced woman standing proudly beside a small wooden house in Mississippi. Remind me what happened when those night riders came to run her off her land. Jasmine sighed but recited the family legend. She sat on her porch with Grandpa's old shotgun, and she told them, "This land is paid for with my sweat and my husband's blood. Y'all can take it when I'm dead, and not 1 minute before." And did they burn her out like they threatened? No. Why not? Jasmine knew the expected answer. Because they could destroy her house, but they couldn't break her spirit. Valencia nodded, her face solemn in the dim light. Hopkins women don't break easy. We bend, we adapt, we transform, but we don't break. Those children took your paper and your drawings. But the vision, the talent, the voice, that's still yours. Always will be. The conversation lingered in Jasmine's mind the next day at school as she moved through the halls with her now habitual caution. For the first time since the incident, she found herself noticing details again. The way light fell through windows, the contrast of bright sneakers against dull floor tiles, the varying expressions that passed over faces in the crowded cafeteria. The artist's eye wasn't completely dead, just deeply wounded. It was during lunch period, as she sat alone at her usual corner table, that an unexpected interaction broke her isolation. Terrence Wallace, a tall, quiet boy from her history class, approached with uncharacteristic determination. Terrence wasn't part of any particular social group. He played bassoon in the school orchestra, ran track without particular distinction, and was known for wearing vintage button-down shirts that earned him the occasional nickname Professor. He and Jasmine had never exchanged more than basic classroom courtesies. "Hey," he said, stopping at her table with a lunch tray clutched in slightly trembling hands. "Can I sit here?" Jasmine looked up, suspicious. "Why?" Terrence blinked, clearly not expecting the challenge. "Because I want to." After a moment's consideration, Jasmine shrugged. Terrence sat, carefully arranging his food before speaking again. "I saw what happened," he said without preamble. "With Camille and them. I saw it all." Jasmine's stomach clenched. Had he come to mock her too? To remind her of her humiliation? "I should have done something," he continued, his voice low. "Said something. Stop them. I didn't, and I'm sorry." The unexpected apology left Jasmine momentarily speechless. Terrence reached into his backpack and pulled out a carefully folded piece of paper, placing it on the table between them. "I picked this up. After. I wasn't sure if you'd want it back, but it seemed important." Jasmine unfolded the paper with cautious fingers. It was a fragment of her neighborhood portrait series, just a corner showing part of Valencia's face alongside the historic barbershop that had recently been converted to an artisanal coffee shop. The tear ran jaggedly through the image, a physical manifestation of the disruption happening in their community. "Thank you," she managed, carefully refolding the piece. "Your art is really good," Terrence said, focusing intently on his sandwich. Like, seriously good. My mom's an art therapist at Children's Hospital. She'd say you have an authentic voice. The compliment felt different coming from him, not the usual sympathetic praise that often carried subtle notes of condescension. Jasmine studied him more carefully, noting the slight fidgeting of his hands, the way he avoided direct eye contact while speaking passionately. Your mom's an art therapist? She repeated, finding herself genuinely curious for the first time in weeks. Terrence nodded, relaxing slightly. Yeah, she works with kids who've been through trauma or have chronic illnesses. Says art helps them express what words can't. Does it help? Jasmine asked, the question revealing more vulnerability than she'd intended. She says it's not about fixing things, Terrence replied thoughtfully. It's about transforming them. Taking something painful and making it, I don't know, meaningful, I guess. Their conversation continued tentatively through lunch period, carefully avoiding direct mention of the incident while somehow addressing it obliquely through discussions of art, expression, and the complicated social ecosystem of high school. As the bell rang, Terrence gathered his things awkwardly. There's an exhibit at the African American Museum this weekend on protest art from the civil rights era through Black Lives Matter. My mom's helping with the youth workshop portion. If you wanted to go. He trailed off, clearly unsure of his invitation. I'll think about it, Jasmine said, surprising herself with the sincere response. If you've ever found connection and understanding in unexpected places, we'd love to hear your story. Has someone ever reached out when you needed it most? Share your experience in the comments below. Also take a moment to subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so. Now back to our story. That weekend, Jasmine did not attend the museum exhibit, but she did something equally significant. She opened her laptop and typed "Black disabled artists" into the search bar. What followed was a revelation, a digital doorway into communities and conversations she hadn't known existed. She discovered videos by disabled Black dancers creating new movements that incorporated mobility aids as part of the choreography rather than obstacles to be overcome. She found painters who attached brushes to headpieces when their hands couldn't hold them. She read blog posts by writers discussing the double consciousness of being both Black and disabled in America, the compounded experience of navigating multiple forms of discrimination and invisibility. One particular artist's statement resonated deeply. My body is not broken. My art is not inspiring just because I made it with a disability. I am not your inspiration porn. I am a creator responding to my unique experience of the world, and that experience includes both my Blackness and my disability, inseparable, informing each other, creating a perspective that is wholly mine. Jasmine stayed up until dawn, consuming these new voices, feeling something shift inside her. The next morning, she asked Valencia if they could rearrange her bedroom to create a small studio space. I thought you were done with art, Valencia observed cautiously as they moved furniture. I'm done with the art I was making, Jasmine clarified. I need to make something different now. That week, Jasmine surprised Ms. Kingsley by requesting access to the art room again, though she remained vague about her new project. She began carrying a small sketchbook again, though she guarded it closely and didn't share the contents. When Terrence mentioned the museum exhibit again, she asked thoughtful questions about the pieces he'd seen. Slowly, a transformation was occurring, not a return to who she'd been before, but an evolution into someone new. The bullying incident had not been forgotten. The videos still circulated. Camille and her friends still occupied the same school spaces, though they now gave Jasmine a wide berth, perhaps wary of the negative attention their actions had eventually garnered from teachers and some parents. But something fundamental had changed in how Jasmine carried herself. Valencia noticed it first, a straightening of the shoulders, a steadiness in her gaze, a determination in how she gripped her crutches. Not defiance exactly, but a quiet, rooted strength that reminded Valencia powerfully of Beatrice on that porch with her shotgun. The pivotal conversation that would set the final transformation in motion came from an unexpected source. Principal Hampton called Jasmine to his office one afternoon in late April, nearly 7 weeks after the incident. I've been thinking about what happened, he began awkwardly, fidgeting with a pen on his immaculate desk. The school's response was insufficient. Jasmine remained silent, watching him struggle with words. "We're implementing new anti-bullying protocols," he continued. "Staff training, student workshops, clearer consequences. But that doesn't address what was done to you personally." He hesitated. "The student council is organizing a diversity awareness week before the end of the semester. I wondered if you might be willing to participate somehow." The old Jasmine might have declined immediately, unwilling to become the school's token example of overcoming adversity. But the new Jasmine considered the request from a different angle. "What kind of participation did you have in mind?" she asked carefully. "Perhaps a speech? Or a presentation on disability awareness?" Hampton suggested, relief evident in his voice. "What about an art installation?" Jasmine countered. "Something interactive. Something that makes people think." Principal Hampton blinked, clearly not having anticipated this response. "That could work. The main hallway gallery space is available. Would you need any special accommodations or materials?" For the first time in their interaction, Jasmine smiled, a small, private expression that carried echoes of her grandmother's determination. "I'll make a list." That evening, Jasmine sat at her desk sketching furiously, surrounded by images and quotes she'd printed from her online research. Valencia watched from the doorway, noting the return of the familiar intensity, the slight frown of concentration, the unconscious lip-biting, the way Jasmine seemed unaware of time passing. "Can I see?" Valencia asked softly, not wanting to break the creative spell. Jasmine looked up, momentarily disoriented, then handed over her sketchbook. "It's just the beginning. I'm not sure if I can pull it off." Valencia studied the design, her expression growing more serious with each page she turned. "This is confrontational," she finally said. "Does that scare you?" Jasmine asked. "Does it scare you?" Valencia returned the question. Jasmine considered this honestly. "Yes, but I think that means it's important." Valencia handed back the sketchbook and placed a hand on her granddaughter's shoulder. "Then it's exactly what you should make." In the weeks that followed, Jasmine worked with a focus and determination that surprised even those who had known her before. She recruited Ms. Kingsley's help for technical aspects beyond her current skills. She approached the school's technology teacher about borrowing equipment. She even reached out to Terrence, who eagerly agreed to assist with the audio components she envisioned. The project consumed her evenings and weekends. She slept less, but seemed more energized. When Valencia expressed concern about the intensity, Jasmine explained, "This isn't just art anymore. It's a conversation I need to have with the school, with Camille, with myself." What no one but Jasmine knew was exactly what form this conversation would take. She kept the central concept private, revealing only the technical requirements to those helping her. As the installation date approached, rumors circulated about what Jasmine Hopkins was creating in the art room after hours. Some speculated it would be an angry denouncement of her bullies. Others thought it might be a plea for sympathy. No one anticipated what would actually emerge. The morning of the school's diversity awareness event arrived with an unusual buzz of anticipation. Jasmine had been cryptically absent the previous day, with permission from Principal Hampton to finalize her installation. The main hallway, the same one where her humiliation had occurred months earlier, had been blocked off with black curtains. A simple sign read, "Seen/Unseen, an interactive experience by Jasmine Hopkins." Opening at 10 a.m. Jasmine arrived early, Valencia by her side. They moved slowly through the still empty school corridors, the clicking of Jasmine's crutches echoing off the lockers. She wore a crisp white button-down shirt over black pants, her hair styled in an elegant crown of braids adorned with small wooden beads, a deliberate choice that Valencia understood as a silent statement of cultural pride. "Nervous?" Valencia asked as they approached the curtained area. Jasmine took a deep breath. "Terrified, but ready." Miss Kingsley met them at the entrance, her usual vibrant clothing replaced by a subdued black ensemble that matched the curtains. "Everything's set up exactly as you specified," she assured Jasmine. Terrence checked the audio system twice. "It works perfectly." "And the, special attendees?" Jasmine asked quietly. Principal Hampton is personally escorting them, Miss Kingsley confirmed. They'll be here. As the first bell rang, students began streaming toward the exhibition space, curious about what lay behind the curtains. Faculty members positioned themselves strategically around the area, creating a protective boundary. Jasmine stood at the entrance, her posture straight despite the visible tension in her shoulders. Principal Hampton appeared, leading a group that included Camille Blackstone and the 4 other students who had participated in the bullying incident. Camille's expression wavered between boredom and discomfort, clearly unhappy about being singled out for what she probably perceived as public shaming. At precisely 10 a.m., Miss Kingsley stepped forward to address the growing crowd. "Today marks the beginning of our school's commitment to truly seeing each other," she announced. "Art has the power to transform how we perceive our world and those who share it with us." This installation, created by sophomore student Jasmine Hopkins, invites us to experience that transformation. Please enter in small groups, move slowly through the space, and respect the interactive nature of the work. She nodded to Jasmine, who stepped forward. The crowd's murmurs subsided as she began to speak. "This piece is called Seen/Unseen," Jasmine said, her voice quiet but steady. "It's about visibility. Who gets seen, who remains invisible, and what happens when we truly look at each other. Before you enter, I ask that you set aside assumptions. This isn't about blame or shame. It's about understanding." With that, she nodded to Terrence, who pulled back the curtain to reveal the entrance to the installation. Jasmine moved to the side, allowing the first group, which deliberately included Camille and her friends, to enter. The installation began in darkness. As visitors moved forward, motion sensors triggered soft lighting that illuminated a narrow corridor lined with mirrors. But these weren't ordinary mirrors. They were two-way glass, and as people passed, lights behind the glass activated to reveal photographs and text previously hidden in the darkness. The photographs showed students at their most vulnerable, crying in bathroom stalls, sitting alone at lunch tables, hunched against lockers looking at phones with expressions of devastation. None showed faces clearly, maintaining the subject's privacy while capturing universal moments of adolescent pain. Among these anonymous images were statistics projected onto the floor. 60% of high school students report feeling unsafe at school. 1 in 5 students with disabilities experiences bullying. Black students with disabilities face discrimination at twice the rate of their peers. The corridor opened into a larger space where the visitors suddenly confronted something unexpected: the viral video of Jasmine's bullying incident playing on a large screen. Many students hadn't realized the video would be part of the installation, and uncomfortable shifting and whispers spread through the group. But something was different about the video. Jasmine had edited it, slowing certain moments, zooming in on specific details: the trembling of her hand as she reached for her fallen crutch, the faces of bystanders who watched without intervention. The moment Camille's expression shifted from amusement to something more complex when Jasmine spoke about gentrification. Positioned directly in front of this screen was a sculptural piece, Jasmine's broken crutch from that day, partially reassembled with golden lacquer filling the cracks, surrounded by the torn fragments of her original artwork, each piece meticulously preserved under glass like precious artifacts. This powerful centerpiece forced viewers to confront the physical reality of what had been broken, both the mobility aid that Jasmine depended on and the art that represented her voice. The golden repairs, inspired by the Japanese technique of kintsugi, transformed the damage into something hauntingly beautiful without erasing the harm done. But the most startling element came next. Beyond this central display, the space opened further to reveal 5 individual portrait stations. Each featured a large-scale portrait of one of the bullies, including Camille. The portraits were stunning in their complexity and compassion, not glorifying or demonizing the subjects, but rendering them with remarkable humanity. Beside each portrait was a small screen playing edited interview footage. Jasmine had, with Principal Hampton's facilitation and parental permissions, conducted private conversations with each of her tormentors. The edited clips showed moments of genuine reflection. Camille speaking softly about pressure from her father to uphold the family image. Another student describing how bullying made him feel powerful when everything else in his life felt out of control. Another admitting she'd never considered what it might be like to navigate the world with a disability until she saw Jasmine struggle to rise after falling. These weren't excuses, but contextual windows into the complex factors that contribute to cruelty. Jasmine had somehow managed to portray her bullies not as monsters, but as flawed, multidimensional human beings capable of both cruelty and growth. The final section of the installation featured a wall where viewers were invited to write responses on small cards and pin them to a collective mural. The prompt read simply, "What do you need to be truly seen? What do you fail to see in others?" As the first group emerged from the installation, the impact was immediately visible. Two of Camille's friends were openly crying. One boy stared at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. Camille herself stood utterly still, tear tracks silently marking her carefully made-up face. When subsequent groups exited, similar reactions played out, students hugging, teachers discreetly wiping eyes, thoughtful silence replacing the usual boisterous hallway chatter. Valencia, who had gone through with a later group, emerged to find Jasmine sitting on a bench near the exit, physically exhausted but watching intently as her peers experienced her work. "You didn't humiliate them," Valencia observed quietly, taking a seat beside her granddaughter. "You could have, but you didn't." "Humiliation doesn't lead to change," Jasmine replied. "Understanding might." The most extraordinary moment came during the lunch period. Jasmine sat with Terrence at what had become their regular table when Camille Blackstone approached, alone and uncharacteristically hesitant. The cafeteria quieted, students watching surreptitiously, anticipating drama. "Can I talk to you?" Camille asked, her voice lacking its usual sharp edge. Jasmine nodded, gesturing to an empty chair. Camille sat, hands fidgeting with a napkin. "How did you do that?" she finally asked. "How did you make me look human? After what I did to you?" "Because you are human," Jasmine answered simply. "Being cruel doesn't make you a monster. It makes you someone who made hurtful choices." "The things I said in that interview," Camille began. "Stay between us," Jasmine assured her. "The clips were edited carefully. Nobody knows the full conversations except the two of us." Camille nodded, relief visible in her shoulders. "My dad saw the installation. Principal Hampton invited parents. He didn't know about the video. About what I did." She swallowed hard. "He's making me see a therapist." Jasmine couldn't help a small smile. "My grandmother would say that's money well spent." "I need to say something," Camille continued, gathering herself. "I've been thinking about it all morning, trying to find the right words, but there probably aren't any that are good enough." She looked directly at Jasmine for the first time. "I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, or because I'm in trouble, but because I hurt you. I destroyed something important to you. I can never fix that. But I am sorry, and I will be more careful with the power I have." The sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. Jasmine felt something shift inside her. Not forgiveness exactly. Not yet, but an opening toward the possibility. "Thank you for saying that," she acknowledged. "It matters that you understand what happened." Camille nodded, then hesitated before adding, "Your art, the real stuff about gentrification in the neighborhood, was really good. My dad's company is part of that problem. Maybe that's why I reacted so." She trailed off, still struggling to articulate the complex emotions that had driven her actions. "Art is supposed to make people uncomfortable sometimes," Jasmine offered. "It's supposed to make us think about things we'd rather ignore." "Well, mission accomplished," Camille said with a hint of her old sharpness. But there was no malice in it now, just recognition of a powerful truth. As Camille stood to leave, she asked one final question. "Will you make more art about the neighborhood? About what's happening there?" Jasmine considered this. "Yes," she decided. "But different than before. Better." "I'd like to see it," Camille said and walked away. Have you ever experienced a moment when someone surprised you with unexpected growth or a sincere apology? How did it make you feel? Share your thoughts in the comments below on the power of genuine accountability and healing, and don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us continue sharing these crucial stories of resilience, justice, and unity. The remaining weeks of the school year brought remarkable changes. Principal Hampton, recognizing the powerful impact of Jasmine's installation, secured funding for a permanent display in the school's main entrance, a rotating gallery featuring student artwork addressing social issues. The first exhibition would feature pieces created collaboratively by students during new weekly workshops focused on empathy and understanding across differences. More significantly, a peer support program emerged, inspired by the Seen/Unseen project. Students volunteered to be trained as visibility allies, helping peers who felt marginalized or excluded find connection and community. Jasmine, along with Terrence and, surprisingly, Camille, became founding members of the initiative. The scholarship competition that Jasmine had originally been preparing for passed without her entry, but something more valuable emerged in its place. A local arts organization, whose director had been invited to view the installation, offered Jasmine a summer internship working with younger disabled children in their community outreach program. "They don't see your disability as something to overcome," Valencia observed when Jasmine shared the news. "They see it as perspective that makes you a better teacher." "It does," Jasmine affirmed. "I understand what it's like to feel invisible. I can help these kids be seen." On the last day of school, Ms. Kingsley presented Jasmine with a special award created by the art department, the Transformation Award, with a small scholarship attached for continuing her artistic development. "Your installation wasn't just art," Ms. Kingsley told her during the presentation. "It was a catalyst. You didn't just create something beautiful, you created change." 6 months later, on a crisp autumn evening, the Pinewood Heights Community Gallery hosted its first youth exhibition. The featured artist was Jasmine Hopkins, presenting a series titled Golden Repairs, multimedia works exploring themes of damage, healing, and transformation in communities and individuals. The gallery buzzed with visitors, teachers, students, neighborhood residents, local artists, and community activists. Valencia moved through the crowd like royalty, accepting compliments on her granddaughter's behalf with gracious nods while directing people to speak to the artist herself. In one corner, Terrence managed the audio installation, occasionally catching Jasmine's eye across the room and offering an encouraging smile. They had grown close over the months, their friendship blossoming into something neither rushed to define but both deeply valued. Camille Blackstone arrived with her father, a man whose real estate company had recently announced a partnership with the Community Land Trust to ensure affordable housing remained in Pinewood Heights alongside new development. The shift in corporate policy had come after months of community pressure, but rumors suggested that Camille's persistent questions at the dinner table had played a role in her father's reconsideration. Near the end of the evening, a reporter from the local newspaper asked Jasmine for a statement about her work. "These pieces are about finding beauty in broken places," she explained, leaning comfortably on her crutches, now personalized with intricate designs that complemented her outfit rather than contrasting with it. "When something breaks, we can throw it away, hide the damage, or transform it into something new. I'm interested in that third option." "And what about your experience with bullying?" the reporter pressed. "Has that influenced your work?" Jasmine considered the question thoughtfully. "That experience broke something in me," she acknowledged. "But in the breaking, I found new strength and clarity." The Japanese art of kintsugi repairs broken pottery with gold, highlighting the breaks instead of hiding them. The philosophy behind it is that something can be more beautiful and valuable for having been broken. I believe the same is true for people and communities. After the reporter moved on, Valencia approached, wrapping an arm around her granddaughter's shoulders. "Your mama would be so proud," she said softly. "And Beatrice too." Jasmine leaned into her grandmother's embrace, watching as a group of children from her summer program excitedly pointed out details in her artwork. Among them was a young girl using a wheelchair, her face alight with possibility as she traced the golden lines running through one of Jasmine's pieces. "I used to think art was about what I could create," Jasmine reflected. "Now I understand it's about what I can help others see, in the world and in themselves." As the evening wound down, Jasmine found herself standing before her favorite piece in the exhibition, a mixed-media portrait of Valencia superimposed over historical photographs of their neighborhood. It was a recreation of the work Camille had torn apart months earlier, but with a significant difference. The tears and damage hadn't been erased or hidden, but incorporated into the composition, with golden lines connecting the fragments and creating an entirely new pattern that was somehow more powerful than the original design. Transformation, not in spite of pain, but through it. Visibility, not despite differences, but because of them. Community, built not on sameness, but on the strength that comes from truly seeing one another. In the soft gallery lighting, Jasmine Hopkins stood tall, artist, advocate, daughter of a proud lineage, young woman coming into her power, her story still unfolding, her voice stronger with each telling, her art a bridge between worlds previously unseen to one another. The tears her work had drawn from her former tormentors weren't an end but a beginning, the first drops of awareness that would, with time and care, grow into streams of understanding and eventually rivers of change. Not because pain itself was valuable, but because transformation always remains possible, even in our most broken places. Thank you for joining us for this story of resilience, redemption, justice, and unity. If Jasmine's journey moved you, please give this video a like and consider subscribing to support more stories that shine light on truth and hope. What moment in this story resonated with you most? Have you witnessed or experienced a similar transformation in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice matters in this conversation. Together, we can create communities where everyone is truly seen.